Oftentimes, if you've been told that you have tight hamstrings and that's the cause of your back pain, likely not the case, and certainly you don't want to cause any further damage to your back, your pelvis, or all the muscles that support your lumbar spine by stretching incorrectly. So this video is for you. What do you do when you want to stretch your hamstrings but you have back pain? Or did someone tell you you have tight hamstrings and that's the reason you're having back pain, thus you're trying to combat it with stretching your hamstrings? So one of the first things I want to point out is that the most common back injury or reasons for having back pain is some kind of a disc injury, not necessarily a herniation, maybe not even a bulge, but certainly damage to the annulus. When the discs of the lumbar spine are agitated, you can have a referral pattern that's going to be more centralized from the top of the glutes and maybe refer up to the mid-back and almost feel like they're wrapping around. Could be unilateral, single-sided, it could be bilateral or both sides. This is an agitated disc or an injury to maybe some strained muscles that aren't healing properly that's agitated around the lumbar joints. So the purpose of this video is to show you how to properly stretch the hamstrings to avoid further complications in your back or creating more pain in your back from stretching your hamstrings. So first I'm going to demonstrate the way you should not stretch your hamstrings. So as you can see, most traditionally, the way that you would do it preparing for any exercise or when you wake up in the morning is you're going to bend forward, round your back, touch your toes, and even now I can feel a great stretch through here. The problem is doing a stretch like that, your back is rounded. In the world of kinesiology and biomechanics, we call this sustained flexion. And it's quite possibly the worst position you could be in for any amount of time, assuming you actually have an aggravated disc injury in your lumbar spine. So the way we would combat this is to actually do a nice hip hinge by pushing your butt back, keeping your knees very slightly bent, and it's like you're going to close the drawer, right? Close the drawer to the cabinet or the dresser by hinging your butt back. Now this creates a nice, stable, neutral lumbar spine without having excessive flexion. So while it's neutral, with my knees slightly bent, I can just kind of kick my butt back. Now here's where the stretch comes in. You're going to go up on your heel. And now you want to sit back into that stretch and you're going to feel that engage really well in your hamstring right away. I recommend holding this between 8 to 10 seconds, maybe even shorter, or go into it slower if you're a beginner. So the worst thing you could do trying to emulate this type of a stretch would be something like this. That's way too fast, it's putting a lot of strain on muscle. If the muscle is tight there and you try to sit back into that stretch, you could aggravate it even more. So again, go into it very slowly. Again, I'll demonstrate on the opposite side in case for some reason the camera didn't pick up something. Again, this is the proper way to stretch your hamstring to avoid further injuring your back or keeping your back in a sustained, susceptible to injury position. So again, we can hip hinge back by trying to close a drawer with our tush. We would come up on our heel. Our toes are pointed straight up. I like to have my hand resting on the top of my quad muscle. And now I'm going to sit back. I'm going to just push my butt back. And again, this is neutral and not compromised. Key to this exercise is to feel a good stretch in your hamstrings, possibly the bottom of your glute or very top of your hamstring as well. There are more modifiers from just this one stretch, but the key is to keep your back neutral, not compromise your lumbar spine, and further injury.